They have to learn that sometimes something isn't going to work and there isn't going to be a way to save that thing working in that manner. And you're going to have to change something. And when you fail forward, you identify what you're going to change to make it be successful.
Welcome to Talking About Kids. I'm your host, R. Bradley Snyder, researcher, activist, and author of The 5 Simple Truths of Raising Kids. Leah Ellis says that she created the Society of Child Entrepreneurs to help kids develop capacities like resilience and problem solving. The Society currently offers workshops and coaching and is piloting a full curriculum with lessons on topics such as turning a passion into a plan. From what I've seen, Leah is doing great things, and the curriculum aligns with evidence-based practices and encourages individual reflection and positive peer-to-peer and child-adult interactions. I do not know enough about encouraging entrepreneurship to comment on that aspect. The little time that I have spent in the entrepreneurship literature suggests a field of wildly diverging theories. However, as you listen to Leah, you may get the sense, as I did, that the experiential learning that the Society of Child Entrepreneurs provides makes learning come alive in ways that benefit participants even if they never start their own businesses. Talking About Kids is sponsored in part by the Arizona Department of Health Services Must Stop Bullying campaign through its Title V Maternal and Child Health Program. For more information, go to muststopbullying.org. If this interview inspires you to create more experiential learning opportunities for kids, it might do the same for others. So please like this episode and share the Talking About Kids podcast with your friends and colleagues. And now, the interview.
I was thinking about it recently, and I think the first time I remember being really entrepreneurial was I taught myself HTML coding so that I could design MySpace layouts for my classmates, and then I sold them to them for $5. And they would give me $5 at school, and then I would go home after school and I would message them on MySpace with the code and the instructions on how to put it on their profile so that they could have custom profiles. And I was doing that at 14, 15 years old. And throughout my life, I've done direct sales things. I've done a couple of small businesses I founded. I have a wedding company now. And throughout all of those, I had this little girl who was watching me. And when she was 4 years old in the midst of COVID, I was starting a new business and she said, "Mom, I want to do that too." And of course, my first response was, "No, you're 4. You cannot start a business." But then she said, "Well, why not?" And I didn't have an answer for that one because there was no good reason why she couldn't. I just said no because that's what you're supposed to do when a 4-year-old asks to start a business. Um, since I had no reason why she couldn't, she started her business at 4.5 years old selling custom artwork. Throughout the next couple of years, she sold in various different places until we moved from Southern California to Kansas. And we did our first children's business fair here in Kansas. And I looked around the room and realized there were 10 children-owned businesses with 14 kids standing in this room. And they were brilliant and they had big ideas and nobody was teaching them what to do next. They came in, they set up their table, they sold their stuff, they made their money and they left. And I was like, but what now? And one of my many previous jobs was I was a nanny and I owned a daycare. So I really, really love child development. I really love teaching. I really enjoy connecting with kids and showing them what they can do. So I went to some friends of mine and said, "I want to start a nonprofit. I want you guys to be my board, and my husband and I will give a founder's loan to pay all the startup costs if you guys will do this with me." And Foolishly, they agreed to follow my blind lead because I have never run a nonprofit, only for profits. And it turned out that we all really love it, and these kids are amazing. And our first book we published in a matter of days at this point. Our curriculum starts piloting in January. We have our city signed a proclamation making Saturday Child Entrepreneurs Day. We're having a huge citywide party, and that's all been in a year and a half.
And so you mentioned right there that the Society of Child Entrepreneurs has a curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me the other things that this nonprofit does. It creates a curriculum, and implicit in your kind of founder story is the idea that you want to get kids beyond an idea.
Mm-hmm. So we have the curriculum right now in its draft form. It's a 36-week long program. We are starting our pilots in January to test it, decide what works, what doesn't, how we want it to go before we finalize, probably in another 18 months, a final version of what the curriculum is going to look like. Alongside that, we have 36 children's books that star the characters behind me, Astra and Zeke, who are child business owners as well. They each owned their own business, and then they came together and started a partnership called Sparks to Stars, which is business coaching for kids by kids. And they teach all kinds of different things in our curriculum, are taught by Astra and Zeke to their clients and then applied to the kids in the classroom. So it's a very story-led curriculum, so the kids always have something to identify with instead of just me standing there telling them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Alongside the curriculum and the storybooks, we have roughly 20 standalone kind of workshops that we do that are things like SMART goals, customer service, public speaking that we do with our members, which brings us to that last portion is we do have a membership program where kids get coaching with me, those workshops, as well as some discounts on participating in the children's business fairs, which is when they get to take all the things that they've created, set them on a table, and sell to our community. And I've seen kids make really good money selling really cool things to the community. Um, this pin right here was made by a 10-year-old. And at one of our children's business fairs, she sold so many of these pins that she bought herself a phone.
Wow. Wow. No, and I agree. I've been fortunate enough to, attend some young people's entrepreneur festivals in different places around the country. And I am routinely impressed. But I want to know, as somebody, Leah, who's clearly passionate about this, why do you think it's important for kids to be entrepreneurs? What skills are you hoping that they develop?
So I think being an entrepreneur is amazing as a career because it means you're problem solving in your community and you're filling the needs that your community has. Small business owners make up a huge part of our national and even local economies. But even if they start a business when they're 10, they decide they hate it when they're 12 and they never become business owners. And that 2 years they spent running a business, they've learned problem solving, they've learned innovation, they've learned customer service, which really means they've learned conflict resolution and communication. They've learned confidence, and they've learned how to carry themselves as somebody, and they've built confidence that they can solve problems and they can be a business owner, which means no matter where they go as adults, those values have still been instilled upon them.
The other thing that's in your materials that's part of what you are doing with the Society of Child Entrepreneurs is that you're helping develop financial literacy. And this one is particularly interesting to me, partially because, there is, when we talk to young people nowadays, some of the top professions that they want to pursue is influencer. And what's
Mm-hmm.
interesting about that is that when you talk to the kids about what is so appealing about it, there's this idea that there's tremendous wealth without any sort of actual work involved, right? And then you watch a lot of these YouTube channels too of some very famous influencers, and they treat money in a what I consider to be a very disrespectful way. We're going to spend $10,000 in this a Walmart to see who can create the craziest fort, and then they
Hmm.
throw it all away, right? Something like that. So, tell me more about how you go about teaching financial literacy and why you think that's important.
Well, I think it's important because we want our culture to have people who understand how to handle their money so that we can have people who can support themselves, support their families, take care of their communities, build our economy. If we're all broken living paycheck to paycheck, it does not bode well for our
Right.
economy as a nation. But the first way we teach it is by letting the kids do it. They are using money, they are making things, they are selling things, they are earning that money. So they have become innately aware of what work happened in order for them to earn that money. So they become really aware of, okay, if I want that skateboard, I need to sell 15 paintings at the next business fair. Then they have a goal, they know what they're doing, and they know the work that goes into getting that thing they want. But we also teach some theory, some classroom stuff on it too, where we talk about how no matter how old you are, there is exactly four things you can do with money. I used to be a financial coach. I've studied this in depth. I've started a book on this and then decided I'd rather teach kids than write a book for grown-ups. Um, but there are, no matter what, four things you can do with money. The first thing is that you earn it. Once you have earned money, there are three choices on where it goes. You can spend it, you can save it, or you can give it away. No matter what you want to call your saving, if it's investing, if it's, loaning it to friends, whatever, that's saving. Your 529s are saving. Your 401k, that's saving, and they're all saving. Giving it away is any type of giving it to your friends, giving it as a gift, giving it to a nonprofit. That's giving your money. And then spending your money. Everybody knows how to spend their money. You hand it to somebody, you get something cool. No matter what, those are the only three things the kids can do with their money once they've earned it. So once I break it down into, okay, in order to be healthy with money, you have to do all three of these things regularly and you have to be comfortable doing all three of these things. Then they start learning that yes, you can spend and yes, you can save, and there needs to be balance so you can have both things. Yes, it's important to give because we want organizations like Sochi to survive. And in order for us to survive as a nonprofit, somebody has to like us enough to give us money. So that's a really good way for me to explain to them, like, your giving has a purpose just as much as your spending and your saving have purpose.
Yeah, I think it's a weakness in some child entrepreneurial activities that the costs that go into the goods that they're producing aren't always accounted for. Like the we will applaud a kid for having a lemonade stand, just for example, and that they made $10, but doesn't count for the lemons that they took out of the refrigerator, or the time they put into it, or the sugar that they took out of the cabinet, right?
Yeah, so we have one of our workshops in our curriculum is on pricing, and we talk about the price of your materials, the time that it takes, how you need to make a profit, and how that's how you determine what your price is going to be. And even when kids do their applications before they do a children's business fair with me, they have to explain where their startup money is coming from, and if it's a loan, how they plan to pay that back.
In talking about your two characters, this, Astra and Zeke, that, are teaching these financial lessons. So you've created them as kind of a dichotomy, where one is, that's Astra, is very much focused on the details. I think that you say when you introduce her that she loves a to-do list, right?
Hmm.
And then you see that the Zeke character is about ideas. He's described as always in motion, right? And his problem is the lack of focus. And Astra is kind of depicted as maybe not having that creative spark that you see in Zeke. Is that the dichotomy that you kind of see in students, where either they get the details but they don't give enough attention to their imagination, or either they're all imagination and no details?
So the running joke is Zeke is actually me in boy form.
Okay.
I am very high energy. I'm very much an idea person. I get really excited and I want to move really fast. And Astro is kind of a little bit my husband. He's very much like, okay, I like this idea, but what are the steps that we take to need to make that happen? So we say that she is calm, she's strategic, and she's imaginative. She
Yeah.
is creative. She's created this Starfinder because she wants people to be able to create something, but she is creative in a slow and intentional way. Whereas then we get to Zeke and he's bold, he's energetic, he's innovative. He wants to try 10 new things and see which ones stick and which ones are the most fun. And so when the two of them come together to run Sparks to Stars, they're able to look at these child entrepreneurs that they're teaching and they can say, look, this is how you can be innovative, imaginative, and strategic together to build a healthy business. And when I get the kids that come to me, we get a lot of kids who are very high energy, have really big ideas. But we do also have a really large portion of our kids who have a really good idea, but they're afraid of how to talk about it. They're afraid of how to set it up and they don't know how to draw customers in. And
Mm-hmm.
so we do kind of have these Astras and these Zeeks who come through. So we set up, actually, I don't know if you ever read like 17 magazine, but they have like that Is He the Boy for You quizzes that you circle A and B. We created an Are You Astra or Are You Zeke
Right.
quiz. And you can go through and you can do our quiz and decide which one of our characters you're most like.
Well, and I have to imagine that some people are Astras sometimes and Zeeks at other times, and that it goes back and forth. And so, I guess I have to ask too, because part of their backstory is that both of them have heroes that they pull from Greek mythology. Leah, what's with the Greek mythology?
So our logo at the Society of Child Entrepreneurs is actually a sunbeam around Hermes and Artemis.
Mm-hmm.
So when I created Astra and Zeke, I wanted them to be inspired from our logo. So I connected them again to Artemis and Hermes. And I personally, I love Greek mythology, so I wanted to honor that because this is an organization that I love. And I chose those particular gods very specifically. So Artemis, among many, many things, is the patron goddess of children. And Hermes, being this messenger god and mover and shaker, among many things, is the patron god of merchants, because in Greek times, merchants were travelers, and he
Mm-hmm.
was the god of travelers. So having the two of them together makes them the patron god of children merchants or child entrepreneurs.
And Artemis is also like the god of hunt too,
Yes,
right? Like
she is.
stalking things. So
She
that
is.
has that double meaning here.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up because I'm also interested in how finding success in your program will impact other domains in the kid's life. And I know that you're in the process of piloting a full curriculum, but you've been working with child entrepreneurs for a while. And what have you seen? Have you seen that success as an entrepreneur stands alone and this is where they put their energy? Or have you seen the skills that they develop impact their other studies or their other activities?
So in a so we have 18 dues paying members and about 7 that are really heavily active and a few more that are moderately active and a few more that are very pretty inactive.
Right.
And so of our core like 7 that are very active, um it's been really fun to watch them kind of develop because like one of them started out and at her first children's business fair, she didn't want to talk to people and she really
Hmm.
wanted to know how many sales she could get without having to talk to you. If you would just like lay the money on the table and walk away, that would be great. She's actually on our junior board of directors now and helps steer the entire organization. She also has done public speaking for us. At our family night, she got on stage and gave an elevator pitch about her business. And her confidence in her business then becomes something that is transferable into her academics. She's confident that she can do this math because she's already doing business math, and she's
Right.
confident that she can write because she knows that she can talk to people. And so she is building that confidence that then goes into all of those other domains as she is developing her personality as a business owner. It's also developing these skills in confidence, in time management, in goal setting, because those are things that are going to apply to her at school, in sports, as an adult, everywhere she goes.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mentioned that because obviously there's been a lot of studies. I've been involved in some of them when we're talking to kids about what would make their education experiences more fulfilling. And a top answer is always, if the school could connect what I'm learning with the real world or explain why I need to know this.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that one of the bigger benefits of teaching entrepreneurship to children is that it connects some concepts from math, but also, you don't have to go far to connect it to a language, to connect it to even to some social studies, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much civics, especially in our program, and economics that go into business. It's a huge social study, the whole thing.
And and I know that like you started your entrepreneur life, you described to us, working with code back in the heady early days of MySpace. For those of you under the age of 35,
Including
MySpace was
me. I'm under
okay.
35. Thank you.
Okay, well then you
Under
were like
30.
like that was at the end of MySpace. I think that when you were helping
Yeah.
out with that.
Yeah.
It was it. I still I think about MySpace because it's kind of, there are MySpace esque places in online now, but they all seem a little bit different. They're not as, that was more about like art and doing, like you created more of a personality than I feel like you do with other social media.
Right. Well, in my high school days was when there was the switch from MySpace to Facebook happened
Yeah,
like my sophomore, junior years of high school. And there was a lot more drama that you could create with your top eights and stuff like that on
yeah.
MySpace. And you could really like tell your crush who you liked by putting them in your top eight, and the creativity and the colors and the fun that came with MySpace, that I do feel like we've lost a lot of that online. And
Yeah.
I would go back to MySpace if they put it back.
So I bring that up to ask, the projects, are the kids um, mostly embracing kind of digital products, or are you seeing them? You showed us a pen that one of your entrepreneurs made and was selling. Where's the split? What are they gravitating towards?
Most of our kids are still very much in that like old school child entrepreneur stuff. So, I mean, we have a lemonade stand, we have some cookies, we have a couple of artists, we have a couple 3D printers. They're definitely able to use technology for their signage. Almost all of them take Cash App and Venmo for their payment. None of them
Mm-hmm.
take cash anymore. Um, but I only have one who does graphic design, and that's my kid.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the rest of them, they're still very much those analog digital things that you can touch, or those physical things that you can touch and take home with you, and much less digital. But they are still using those online resources to build them. So we have one kid who is 13 years old, and he does not love that people his age don't read. He's a very
Mm.
avid reader, and he wants his friends to read more books with him, which is a very admirable goal. So he decided to create a top 10 list, and he sells these top 10 lists with a book and a bookmark. So you get a bookmark with the top 10 books based on your genre and a book from his table. Um, and he hand draws all of his bookmarks, and then he hand draws them and then has copies made and printed. So they're all very beautifully created and then digitized to reprint. But he is able to use the internet for tons of book recommendations, thoughts on where does he go next for his books. And then he found a local bookseller where he can buy books at an amazing discount and then sell them for profit.
Oh wow! Oh wow! So, I mean, obviously, in any modern economy, there's going to be a mix, but I do know that there seems to be, and this is also in in the literature, there are benefits to creating something that seems to exist, in a more corporeal state, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you made something and it's complete and it stands alone and you can look at it and point at it and say, I did this. There seems to
Right.
be some real benefits to that. But that obviously exists in graphic design too. So I'm glad that they're making products that at least that they can like point to and show other people.
Right. And even our graphic designer, she prints
Yeah.
and she sells prints of her graphic designs. She's like,
Ah.
so this is what I made. You can hang it on the wall at your house now. Go ahead and buy it. Because there's a pride in saying, I made this and now I can touch it. I mean, even Astra and Zeke, I had them made into stuffed animals,
Yeah.
and being able to hold these stuffed animals and be like, these were in my brain and now they're in my hands.
It's a big deal. It really is. So of all the products that your young entrepreneurs have made, is there one or two that you find yourself using a lot?
I use Brooklyn's pins a lot. I have three of them, and I use Brooklyn's pins a lot. Um, my daughter designed our business cards, so I use those a lot. Um, and one of our kids, I don't have one on my desk right now, the 3D printer, he made these really cool fidgets, and I have a
Mm,
lot of 3D printed fidgets, because I have ADHD and fidgets
sure.
help me concentrate. So yeah. And then I just mentioned the lemonade. I drink a lot of lemonade when we do children's business fairs, and I eat a lot of cookies.
And is the I mean, so when you said lemonade stand, you're being, actual factual that you have a lemonade stand.
Yes, so we have two businesses. One of them, she alternates her beverage based on the season.
Hmm.
So she does hot chocolate, boba, or lemonade, depending on the season. She alternates her
Nice.
beverages out. And then we have another, it's two sisters. They have a partnership and they do specialty lemonade. So they charge $5 a glass for a 20-ounce cup of lemonade. But they do tiger's blood, peach raspberry, peach mango, and they add glitter and candy to your lemonade, and it is a full thing. They hand squeeze the lemons, they put stickers on every cup. um and I get a lot of lemonade.
There are a group of kids on my block that do donuts, and it's dangerous. And I've been wanting to. They look amazing, and I haven't been. Happily, I've passed them when I wasn't hungry, so I haven't gone completely nuts and picked them up. But they somehow found they wheel out a full on glass display case that they have the
That's
donuts lined
amazing.
up in. It's actually
I
it's
need to talk to
pretty.
these kids.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it, yeah, three, I would put them at like three 13, 14-year-old boys.
That's
And
amazing.
they've got this display case of what look to be some amazing donuts. But again, happily, I'm always going somewhere else where I can't walk with a donut or something like that, or I would be heavier than I am now. And so I know that the curriculum is in development, and of course, we're going to have links to the Society for Child Entrepreneurs in the show notes. But while people are waiting for this curriculum, or maybe if they're in a environment where the curriculum isn't going to work for them at this moment, what kind of tips do you have for these individuals that maybe they don't want to do a full entrepreneurial program now, but they definitely want to help the kids in their space develop entrepreneurial skills?
So I wrote, and I'm working on presenting a TEDx, and its title is Dear Parents and Teachers, Children Are Not the Future. And it ends with a call to action that we stop telling kids, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Mm.
And start asking kids what they want to do now. And then when they give you something that they want to do, start asking them how they want to do it, instead of telling them that they need to wait. So no matter if you want to teach them entrepreneurship, if you want to teach them civic engagement, if you want to teach them leadership or financial literacy, ask them what they want to do and then ask them how they want to reach that goal.
Ask
Get
them
them,
what they want to do now. Leah,
yeah.
I love that. I love that. And please, I interrupted you there, but
No,
you
no, you're
said
good.
in yeah,
Uh,
and then help them develop the plan to actually make that happen. That's
My
excellent.
So again, I'll brag on my daughter. We 2 years ago, when she was in third grade, we were planting a tree for her Girl Scout troop on Earth Day. So we're planting a tree in the city park on Earth Day. She had already had to go to speak at city council to get approval from the city to plant it in the city park.
Mm.
So she's been to city council and asked for permission. She's gotten the permission. We've gotten the plan. We're going to celebrate Earth Day. She looks at me from the third row of our minivan while I'm driving down the road and says, Mom, we're not celebrating our tree enough. I need you to call the Chamber of Commerce and see if they'll do a ribbon cutting. Okay, fine. I called the Chamber of Commerce fully expecting them to be like, no, we're not doing a ribbon cutting for a tree in the park. Well, They said, well, yeah, we can do a ribbon cutting, but really, for something like this, don't you think a ceremonial groundbreaking would make more sense? Okay. So I talked to my daughter and I'm like, they want to do a groundbreaking. And she was like, well, I guess we'll just have to do both. And I'm like, okay, are you going to speak? And she was like, I think I want to read a book. Okay, what book are you going to read? Let's go to the library and see what books they have about planting trees. So we look at their 4 or 5 different books on
Yeah.
planting trees. We read them all. And she's like, none of these are good enough.
Mm.
So mom has to go home. I write this poem. And she says, Mom, this is perfect, but there's nothing to look at. I had to pay an artist to illustrate the poem so there was something for people to look at. So she's got these spreads of these paintings of this tree to read this poem. So then we have golden shovels for a ceremonial groundbreaking, a ribbon cutting, a poetry reading, a custom art, the mayor and the newspaper present for 12 girls to plant a tree that I kid you not was 2.5 feet tall.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Ask the kid what they want to do because I guarantee you it will make a good story later.
Well, the other thing that I like about how you're describing this approach is that I had Harvey Erickson on the podcast just recently. He's a very well-known sports writer, and we were talking about the state of youth sports. And a big downside that he sees, and I agree, I've talked about it before myself, is that too quickly children are kind of funneled into one sport, playing it year round on a travel team that they either their life becomes that sport or they don't get to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And they also are playing a sport at the expense of other sports, sometimes before they even know if they like these other sports, right? And so I do like you hearing that, they can do this and they can stop. And, by definition, if you're an entrepreneur, you're pivoting quite a bit to find new things, right?
Right. And that's exactly it. They have to learn that innovation, they have to learn that problem solving, and they have to learn, we call it failing forward. They have to learn that sometimes something isn't going to work and there isn't going to be a way to save that thing working in that manner. And you're going to have to change something. And when you fail forward, you identify what you're going to change to make it be successful.
Well, Leah, I hope that you are successful with the Society of Child Entrepreneurs. Congratulations. Looking forward to seeing the curriculum as it gets fully, rolled out. And thank you for being a guest on Talking About Kids.
Thank you for having me. I really, really love talking about how absolutely innovative kids can be when we give them a chance.
That was Leah Ellis. More information about Leah and the Society of Child Entrepreneurs is at talkingaboutkids.com. And when you do visit talkingaboutkids.com, leave me a note. I would love to hear from you. The Talking About Kids theme song is by the Senators. For more of their music, go to thesenatorsmusic.com. And remember, kids are young goats and young humans, and the difference is that young goats are easier to manage.